Laura Bennett sat on the front porch of her small white house, watching the evening sun fade behind the trees. The sound of crickets filled the quiet yard, and for a moment, she felt peaceful. Life had been calm lately, lonely sometimes, yes, but peaceful. After her husband Michael passed away 8 years ago, she had learned to live with the silence. She found comfort in the small things: her garden, her books, and her late husband's old blue 1973 Chevrolet that sat in the garage. That car wasn't just an object to her. It was a memory she could touch. Every scratch, every dent, every corner of that car carried a story of the life she once had. Michael had bought it the year they got married. They had spent weekends fixing it together, laughing as grease covered their hands. Sometimes when she missed him, she would go into the garage, open the door, and sit behind the wheel just to smell the faint scent of the leather seats. It reminded her of long drives, of laughter, of love that didn't fade with time. Her daughter, Chloe, didn't see it that way. To her, it was just an old car, slow, outdated, and taking up space. Chloe was 25, smart, beautiful, and full of dreams. She was engaged to Ethan Cole, a man Laura didn't dislike, but didn't entirely trust either. He was charming but careless, always making big promises but never following through. Chloe, like many young women, wanted her wedding to be perfect. She talked endlessly about the venue, the flowers, the catering, and her dress. "It's the most important day of my life, Mom," she kept saying, her eyes glowing with excitement. Laura smiled and nodded, even though she knew what was coming. Money. It always came down to money. One night, as they sat at the kitchen table, Chloe showed her the list of wedding expenses. "I've been saving, but I still need more," she said. "Ethan's parents are paying for part of it, but it's not enough. I thought maybe you could help." Laura looked at the numbers and felt her heart sink. The total was more than she made in a year. She smiled gently, trying to sound calm. "Sweetheart, I wish I could. But I just don't have that kind of money." Chloe frowned. "You've been saving, haven't you? Maybe from Dad's insurance." "I used most of that for the house and your college," Laura said softly. "I kept a little for emergencies, but not for a big wedding." Chloe sighed and leaned back, frustrated. "Mom, it's not just a wedding. It's my one special day. Everyone's expecting something amazing. I can't just have it in a backyard like some cheap event." Laura's eyes softened. "There's nothing wrong with a simple wedding, Chloe. The only thing that makes it special is love. Not chandeliers or champagne." But Chloe wasn't listening anymore. Her eyes were on her phone, scrolling through pictures of wedding venues and designer dresses. The sparkle of screens seemed brighter than the warmth of her mother's words. Over the next few days, Chloe tried to find other ways to fund her dream. She looked at credit cards, loans, and even asked Ethan to ask his friends. But nothing worked. The numbers didn't add up. She started feeling trapped, torn between her dream and her reality. Then one afternoon, as she walked past the garage on her way out, something caught her eye. The car. Her father's old blue Chevrolet. The sunlight hit the hood just right, making it shine like new. She stopped, stared for a few seconds, and slowly walked inside. It smelled like dust and oil. The leather seats were old but clean. On the dashboard sat a small photograph, her father smiling with an arm around her mother, both covered in grease from fixing the engine. Chloe touched the frame and smiled sadly. Then, like a whisper, a thought crossed her mind. Mom never drives this car anymore. It's just sitting here. It's worth something a lot, maybe. She looked around the garage, at the walls, the shelves, the quiet emptiness. It's just metal, she told herself. It's not like I'm hurting anyone. I'm her daughter. She'd understand. But deep down, she knew it wasn't right. Still, the thought refused to leave her head. That night, as she lay in bed scrolling through her phone, she couldn't stop thinking about it. She even searched online, classic Chevrolet value 1973. Her eyes widened at the prices she saw. 20,000. Maybe more. Her heart started racing. That's enough. That's everything I need. The next morning, Chloe couldn't stop staring at the garage door. Her stomach twisted with guilt, but the excitement of solving her problem felt stronger. She opened her laptop and created a quick post on a car sales website. 1973 Chevrolet Impala, great condition. One owner. Runs perfectly. She attached the photos she had taken the day before. It took only minutes. By the time she finished, her hands were trembling. When Laura came home from work that evening, Chloe acted normal, too normal. She helped with dinner, talked about wedding plans, even hugged her mother before bed. But her mind wasn't calm. Every few minutes, she checked her phone for messages. By midnight, a buyer had replied. A man named Peter offered to buy the car for $21,000 cash. Chloe's heart leapt. She stared at the screen, barely breathing. She typed back, "Deal." Before going to bed, she looked once more at the garage door and whispered, "It's just a car." But in the quiet darkness, even she didn't believe her own words. Outside, the night was still, but inside Chloe's heart, a storm had begun. A storm that would soon destroy her peace, test her mother's love, and change both of their lives forever. The next morning, sunlight poured through Chloe's bedroom window. She opened her eyes and stared at the phone beside her pillow. Her heart skipped when she saw a new message from Peter, the man who wanted to buy the car. "I'll be there tomorrow morning with the cash. Please have the car ready." Chloe sat up slowly, her chest tightening with both excitement and fear. Tomorrow. It was happening. She got out of bed and looked toward the garage through her window. Her father's blue Chevrolet sat quietly, shining in the morning light. It looked peaceful, like it belonged there. But soon it wouldn't. She tried to shake the thought away. "It's fine," she whispered to herself. "Mom barely touches it. She won't even notice for weeks. And I'll finally be able to pay for the wedding." Still, something didn't sit right. She felt like a thief in her own home. Every time she heard her mother's footsteps or her voice, Chloe's stomach tightened. That afternoon, Laura came into her room holding a basket of laundry. "You've been quiet today," she said kindly. "Everything okay, honey?" Chloe smiled nervously. "Yeah, just tired. Wedding planning is stressful." Laura chuckled softly. "I can imagine. But remember to breathe. It's supposed to be a happy time, not a war." "I know, Mom," Chloe said, forcing a smile. "Don't worry." But inside, she was worrying. She had to keep her secret until tomorrow. Then she would have the money, pay for everything, and tell her mother later. Maybe after the wedding, when everything was done. She convinced herself it would all make sense then. That night, she went to the garage to take one last look at the car. The air smelled like oil and old leather. She ran her fingers over the steering wheel, the seats, the dashboard. She remembered sitting in the back seat as a little girl, with her father driving and her mother singing along to the radio. The memory hit her harder than she expected. For a moment, she hesitated. "Maybe I shouldn't," she whispered. But the image of her dream wedding flashed in her mind. The white dress, the lights, the smiles. She swallowed the guilt. "It's just a car," she repeated quietly, almost trying to convince herself. The next morning, she woke up early. Her hands were shaking as she brewed coffee. The sun wasn't even up yet when she got the text. "On my way." She paced around the living room, heart pounding, checking the window every few seconds. Laura was still asleep in her room. Everything had to go perfectly. When Peter arrived, he was polite and cheerful. He looked around the car, impressed. "This is in great shape," he said. "You've taken care of it well." Chloe laughed nervously. "Yeah, it's been in the family a long time." They completed the paperwork quickly. When he handed her the envelope of cash, she stared at it in disbelief. It was real. She could feel the weight of it, $21,000. As he drove the car out of the garage, Chloe stood there watching. The rumble of the engine echoed down the street. Her heart twisted painfully, but she forced herself to smile. "It's for the wedding," she whispered. "It's worth it." After he left, the garage looked painfully empty. The silence inside it felt heavy. For the first time, Chloe realized how much that car had meant to her mother. She felt a flicker of fear. What if she finds out soon? But she shook the thought away again. "I'll tell her later. She'll understand." That afternoon, as Laura was making lunch, Chloe decided to text her. She wanted to sound confident, not scared. She opened her phone and typed, "Hey Mom, I'm selling your car to help pay for my wedding. Don't freak out, it's just a car." Her hands trembled as she pressed send. She expected an angry call or a long paragraph filled with disappointment. But instead, her phone buzzed just 1 minute later. It was a short message. "Good luck, Chloe. The new owner is driving it to Alaska." Chloe froze. Her heart dropped. What? She read the message again and again, her mind spinning. What does she mean? The new owner? Driving it to Alaska? Her throat felt dry. She quickly called her mother. "Mom, what do you mean? What are you talking about?" Laura's calm voice came through the phone. "You can't sell what's already gone, sweetheart." Chloe blinked, confused. "What do you mean? I just sold it this morning." "I know," Laura said softly. "That's why I sold it 3 days ago." For a few seconds, Chloe couldn't speak. Her stomach twisted. You sold Dad's car? Yes, Laura replied quietly. I did. Why? Chloe cried. You loved that car. You said it was special. Laura's tone stayed calm. Because I knew what you were planning to do. I saw the emails on the family computer. I didn't want you to make a mistake you'd regret. So I sold it myself. Chloe's voice shook. To who? Why would you do that without telling me? You'll understand soon, Laura said gently. I promise. Then she hung up. Chloe sat on the couch, stunned. Her whole body felt cold. Her plan had completely fallen apart. Not only was the car gone, her mother already knew everything. She looked around the quiet house. Her mother's favorite book sat on the table, and her jacket hung by the door. Guilt flooded her chest like a heavy wave. She had tried to trick the one person who had given her everything. Tears filled her eyes. She whispered to herself, "What have I done?" That night, Chloe couldn't sleep. Every sound in the house made her heart pound. Every memory of her mother's smile made her chest ache. She wanted to ask for forgiveness, but she didn't know how. Outside, the garage stood empty, silent proof of a mistake that couldn't be undone. And somewhere deep inside, Chloe knew that what came next wouldn't be simple. Her mother had something to say, and the truth she'd been hiding was about to break Chloe's heart even more than losing the car ever could. The next morning, Chloe could barely bring herself to get out of bed. Her eyes were swollen from crying all night. She kept replaying her mother's calm voice in her head. I sold it 3 days ago. The words cut deeper every time. She felt angry, hurt, and guilty all at once. She had done something terrible, but she still didn't understand why her mother would sell the car first. That car had meant everything to her. It was the one thing she never touched. So why would she suddenly decide to let it go? By afternoon, Chloe couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed her keys and drove straight to her mother's house. The drive felt endless. Every streetlight, every turn made her heart pound harder. When she finally parked outside, she saw her mother sitting on the porch, reading a book as if nothing had happened. Chloe got out of the car quickly, her eyes full of tears and confusion. Mom, she called. Laura looked up calmly. Hi, sweetheart. Come sit with me. Chloe shook her head. No, I don't want to sit. I want to know what's going on. You sold Dad's car? Without telling me. Laura closed her book slowly and placed it on the table beside her. I did, she said quietly. I sold it because I had to. Had to? Chloe's voice cracked. You didn't have to do anything. That car meant everything to you. Laura looked at her daughter with tired eyes. And it still does, Chloe. That's exactly why I had to sell it. Chloe's chest tightened. I don't understand. Laura stood and walked toward the garage. Chloe followed, her heart racing. The space was empty now, no car, no smell of oil, just silence. Laura turned to face her daughter. I saw your messages, she said softly. You were planning to sell it. You were desperate, and I know how that feels. But I couldn't let you make a choice that would haunt you later. So I sold it first. Chloe's voice trembled. But why, Mom? If you knew, why not just stop me? Why not tell me? Laura took a deep breath. Because if I had stopped you, you wouldn't have learned anything. You would have stayed angry, thinking I was just being stubborn. But this way, you could see what happens when love is replaced by need. Tears filled Chloe's eyes. Then what did you do with the money? Did you at least keep it? Laura's voice softened. No, Chloe. I donated it. Chloe's heart dropped. What? Laura nodded slowly. Your father and I used to volunteer at the children's hospital in the city. You were just a kid back then, but you loved going with us. Do you remember? Chloe blinked, confused. A little. We brought toys for the sick kids, right? Yes, Laura said with a faint smile. Your father loved that place. Every Christmas, he'd dress up as Santa and bring presents. After he passed, I couldn't go back there. It hurt too much. But when I saw what you were about to do, I knew what he would have wanted. So I sold the car and gave every penny to the hospital in his name. Chloe's mouth fell open. Her knees felt weak. She leaned against the wall, trying to breathe. You gave it all away? All of it. Laura nodded. Every cent. It will help children who are fighting for their lives. That car will still do good, just in a different way. Chloe pressed her hands against her face as tears poured down her cheeks. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted my wedding to be perfect. Laura walked closer and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. I know, sweetheart, but perfect isn't about big weddings or expensive dresses. It's about love, love that lasts longer than a day. Chloe looked at her mother, her lips trembling. I thought you wouldn't understand. I thought you'd be mad. Laura smiled sadly. Oh, I was hurt. Deeply. But not because you wanted something nice, because you forgot what really matters. You forgot where love lives. It's not in things, Chloe. It's in people. The two women stood in silence for a long moment. The empty garage around them felt full of memories, lessons, and something stronger than either of them expected: forgiveness. Finally, Chloe spoke softly. I miss Dad so much. I think I was trying to fill that hole with things that don't matter. Laura's eyes watered. I miss him too every day. But when I see you, I see him. The best parts of him. Chloe hugged her mother tightly. For the first time in years, it wasn't a quick hug. It was long and real. She cried into her mother's shoulder, whispering, I don't deserve you. Laura stroked her hair gently. You do. You made a mistake, but we all do. What matters is that you see it now. When they finally pulled apart, Chloe wiped her tears and looked around the garage once more. It feels strange, she said quietly. Empty. Laura smiled softly. Maybe. But sometimes we have to make space for better things: peace, forgiveness, new memories. Chloe nodded, her chest heavy but calm. I'll never forget this, Mom. Never. Laura reached out and squeezed her hand. Good. Because one day, when you have your own daughter, you'll understand how hard it is to teach a lesson through love instead of anger. They walked back to the porch together. The afternoon light touched their faces, soft and golden. Laura poured them both tea, and they sat quietly, watching the sky change colors. Neither spoke for a while, but they didn't need to. The silence between them was no longer heavy, it was healing. Later that evening, as Chloe got up to leave, she stopped by the doorway and turned to her mother. You know, maybe the wedding doesn't need all that stuff, she said with a small smile. Maybe a garden ceremony would be enough. Laura's eyes brightened. Your father would have loved that. Chloe nodded, smiling through her tears. Then that's what I'll do. As she walked away, Laura whispered to herself, she's learning. And for the first time in a long while, Laura didn't miss the car. The garage was empty, yes, but her heart finally felt full again. 2 days after their talk, Chloe woke to a call from an unknown number. Hi, this is Officer Miller from Vehicle Registration. Are you Chloe Bennett? Her stomach turned. Yes. There's a problem with a 1973 blue Chevrolet you sold. The title was transferred 3 days before your sale. The first buyer has proof. We need you and your mother to come in. Chloe closed her eyes. It was happening. The truth had finally reached the world outside their house. She drove to the office with Laura beside her. Neither spoke much. Laura's hands were folded in her lap, calm but firm. When they entered, a man in a hiking jacket stood up. He introduced himself as Henry Walsh, the first buyer. He looked kind, not angry, just concerned. Officer Miller laid out the papers. Mrs. Bennett sold the car to Mr. Walsh legally. Pickup was scheduled for this week. The car was then removed from the property by someone else and sold a second time. He looked at Chloe. That buyer is named Peter. He reported he cannot register the car and wants his money back. Chloe's lips trembled. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. She swallowed. I thought I could fix my own problems. I didn't think about the law. Or my mother. Laura spoke gently. Officer, please don't charge my daughter. This was wrong, and we both know it, but she is ready to make it right. The officer studied their faces, then nodded. Return the money to Peter. The car goes to Mr. Walsh, as agreed. If everyone cooperates, we can keep this civil. They met Peter in the parking lot that afternoon. He was red-faced, stressed, but not cruel. Chloe handed him the full envelope of cash, her hands shaking. I am so sorry, she said. I lied to myself and to you. I'll never do anything like this again. Peter sighed, then softened. Just be careful. Weddings end in one day. A bad choice can last a lot longer. He drove away without another word. Later, Henry came to collect the car from the storage lot where the officer had placed it. He turned to Laura. I heard what you did with the payment. That donation, that was decent. Laura smiled sadly. It was my husband's spirit guiding me. Henry nodded, then looked at Chloe. You're lucky to have a mother like this. Learn from her. He tipped his cap and left with the car, the real owner at last. That evening, Chloe and Laura sat at the kitchen table with 2 mugs of tea and no more secrets. The house felt lighter. The garage was empty, yes, but their hearts were not. I canceled the hotel, Chloe said quietly. I called the caterers. I'm not doing a grand stage anymore. Laura waited, giving her space. I told Ethan the truth. Chloe continued. I told him we're doing a backyard wedding. If he wants the big party, he can pay for it himself later. But I won't build a marriage on debt or lies. What did he say? Laura asked. He was upset at first, Chloe admitted. But when I said it with a clear voice, he listened. He said he loves me, not a ballroom. And if he ever forgets that, I should remind him. Laura smiled, warmth in her eyes. Good. That's the sound of you growing up. The weeks that followed were simple and peaceful. With help from a few friends, Chloe hung white string lights along the fence. Laura trimmed the roses and planted new lilies near the steps. They found a small second-hand gown that fit Chloe like it was made for her. A neighbor baked a cake. Another brought chairs. People showed up not because of an invitation with gold letters, but because they loved them. On the morning of the wedding, the air smelled of cut grass and lemon soap. Laura stood at the mirror pinning a small silver clip in Chloe's hair, the same clip Laura wore on her own wedding day. For a second, their faces were close in the glass. Two women with the same eyes, one older, one younger, both steady now. Mom, Chloe whispered, thank you for not giving up on me. I never will, Laura said. That's my promise. The ceremony was held under the big oak tree behind the house. Sunlight fell through the leaves like soft confetti. When the music began, just a single guitar, Laura took Chloe's hands and walked her down the short garden path. There were no chandeliers, no ice sculptures. Only family, friends, and the quiet breath of summer. At the small table near the porch, Chloe placed a framed photo of her father next to a glass jar of lilies. She touched the frame. Dad, she whispered, I made mistakes. But I found my way back. During the vows, Ethan's voice wavered. Chloe, I don't need the biggest stage, he said. I need the truest home. I will work harder. I will be the partner you deserve. Chloe spoke next, eyes shining. Ethan, I thought a perfect day needed perfect things. I was wrong. It needs only honest love. I promise to tell the truth, to ask for help when I need it, and to choose us over image. Laura wiped her eyes, laughing softly at herself. When the officiant invited a parent to speak, she stepped forward. I once kept a card to keep a memory, she said, voice clear. Then I let it go to keep a person. Today I see that memory alive, in my daughter's courage. She chose love. She paused, then added with a little smile. Michael, if you're listening, she finally gets it. A hush settled, gentle and full. Even the birds seemed to listen. After the ceremony, neighbors passed plates, children chased bubbles, and someone started a quiet dance on the grass. Laura sat for a moment on the porch steps, watching Chloe laugh. A breeze moved through the lilies, and in that soft wind Laura could almost hear her husband's familiar, easy laugh, not as an ache, but as a blessing. As evening came, Chloe slipped beside her mother and leaned her head on Laura's shoulder. I've been thinking, she said. Every year, on our anniversary, I want to bring flowers to the children's hospital. And a note in Dad's name. Laura squeezed her hand. He would love that. So do I. They watched the string lights glow against the darkening sky. No grand ballroom could compete with that simple piece, the kind that fills a backyard and stays in a life. Later, when the guests had gone and the house was quiet again, Chloe stood at the garage door. She opened it to the empty space and didn't panic. She smiled. We made room, she said softly. For better things. From the porch, Laura answered without turning around, as if she felt the thought move through the air. Yes, she said. For better things. And that was how the story ended, not with a roar of an engine, but with the steady heartbeat of a home. The car was gone. The lesson stayed. And in the gentle dark, mother and daughter stepped into the kind of future that does not rust and cannot be sold.